Honestly, when a woman isn't interested in you, she tends to show it through these 7 behaviors. Think of them as psychology-based signals. Pay attention, because this won't just protect your pride. It will protect your time, your focus, and your peace of mind. Most men don't lose because they're inadequate. They lose because they keep investing in a woman who is already emotionally checked out, and they label that persistence as hope. Here's the reality. When a woman isn't into you, she rarely says it directly. She demonstrates it, not through kind words or courteous smiles, but through consistent patterns that quietly reveal where you truly stand. And remember what Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. That truth applies to dating more than almost anywhere else. If her interest is genuine, you won't have to analyze it like a mystery novel. If it isn't, you'll catch yourself justifying behavior you would never tolerate if you truly valued your own time. So don't hold on to maybe. Don't chase mixed signals as if they're hidden invitations. Be the man who observes actions, not promises. Society conditions men to over-pursue, over-explain, and over-invest. But you're not here to beg for clarity. You're here to see reality clearly and act with discipline. So subscribe, because what we're about to break down may feel tough, but it will make you sharper, calmer, and much harder to manipulate. 7 behaviors a woman consistently shows when she isn't interested. Once you recognize them, you'll stop wasting months fighting for something that was never yours to win. 1. Mysterious unavailability. Here's a truth many men don't want to hear, but every man between 35 and 70 needs to fully understand if he wants peace of mind, self-respect, and emotional clarity. When a woman isn't interested, one of the earliest and clearest signals is what I call mysterious unavailability. It's such a consistent pattern that once you learn to notice it, you can't unsee it. Because this isn't about coincidence, bad timing, or temporary stress. It's about priority, and priorities never lie. So don't dismiss it, don't soften it, don't rationalize it, and don't argue with reality. Reality is trying to protect you, not hurt you. When a woman isn't interested, she doesn't just disappear occasionally. She disappears regularly, predictably, and conveniently. She's always busy, not in a focused, disciplined way, but in a scattered, excuse-filled way that somehow never clears up. There's work, errands, family matters, social events, sudden obligations, vague plans, and something just came up. And the detail most men overlook isn't that she's busy, it's that she's always busy. Specifically when it comes to you, and only you. Because here's the truth most men don't want to accept. Everyone gets the same 24 hours, and genuine interest naturally rearranges time without effort. When a woman truly wants to see you, she doesn't treat the calendar like a contract that needs negotiation. She simply makes it happen. She shifts things around, shortens other commitments, and creates space, even if that space is small. Desire doesn't require perfect conditions, it only requires intention. And this is basic female psychology. It hasn't really changed in decades, no matter how modern dating appears on the surface. When she's interested, she replies with momentum. She offers alternatives instead of delays. She confirms plans instead of leaving things in maybe mode. She shows consistency rather than confusion. But when she's not interested, the pattern completely reverses. And this is where many men begin hurting themselves by lying to their own minds. They tell themselves things like, she's just overwhelmed, or she's in a busy phase, or once things settle down, she'll have more time. But listen closely. Calm never arrives for someone who isn't actively looking for you. 1 week becomes 2, the weekend becomes next month, and next month quietly fades into silence. During that silence, if you're honest with yourself, you'll notice something that stings. You'll see her active elsewhere, smiling in pictures, laughing with friends, attending events, living her life. And that tells you everything without her saying a single word, because time isn't missing, it's being allocated somewhere else. And this isn't cruelty, it's clarity. The cruelty begins when you refuse to accept that clarity and start building hope on top of excuses. Don't do that. Don't chase ambiguity. Don't invest emotion where there's no return signal. Don't reward distance with more effort. Psychology only works when you first understand yourself, and the most powerful psychological skill is emotional self-control, not persuasion, not clever strategy, not manipulation, just self-respect. When you stay fully available while she remains consistently unavailable, you create imbalance, and imbalance destroys attraction before it even gets the chance to grow. Attraction feeds on mutual energy, not one-sided patience. This is where many men confuse kindness with endurance. They believe being endlessly understanding will eventually earn desire, but desire is not a reward for waiting. It's a response to presence, confidence, and clarity. If she doesn't meet you there, you must stop filling in the gaps for her. Don't ask for endless explanations. Don't seek reassurance that never truly comes. Don't push for closure conversations that go nowhere. Be still. Be observant. Be honest with yourself. Her behavior has already answered the question you're afraid to ask out loud. Here's the deeper layer most men miss. Mysterious unavailability is often passive communication. It's how someone says no without saying it directly. And while that can feel frustrating, it's still communication. Your job is not to endlessly decode it. Your job is to respond with dignity. The moment you stop chasing someone who isn't choosing you, you instantly regain your power. And power here doesn't mean controlling her. It means mastering yourself. Understand this through the lens of female psychology and what it really takes to fall in love the right way. Because love doesn't start in confusion, it starts in clarity, safety, and mutual effort. Any connection that constantly forces you to guess where you stand isn't really a connection, it's emotional exhaustion. And the longer you remain in it, the more you condition your mind to treat uncertainty as normal, even though it isn't. Stop telling yourself that increasing your effort will magically flip a switch. Effort without genuine interest feels like pressure, not attraction. This is one of those psychology concepts that backfires when misunderstood. The more you lean in while she leans away, the less appealing the dynamic becomes, not because you did anything wrong, but because attraction cannot grow where enthusiasm is uneven. Instead, do this. Step back calmly. No drama, no resentment, no grand announcements. Stop initiating. Stop filling every silence. Stop offering availability where none is returned, and simply observe how the truth reveals itself. If she notices and reaches out with real effort, that gives you information. If she doesn't, that also gives you information. Either way, you gain freedom, and freedom is the real victory here. Remember, being busy is part of life, but being consistently unavailable to one specific person is a choice. Once you accept that, you stop wasting emotional energy trying to fix a problem that was never yours to solve. The goal isn't to convince someone to choose you. The goal is to recognize when they already haven't, and then move accordingly. This understanding alone can save you years of frustration, sleepless nights, and unnecessary self-doubt. It aligns perfectly with healthy female psychology and the idea of falling in love in a grounded, mutual way, not an anxious, one-sided way. Don't be the man who waits endlessly for clarity that already exists. Be the man who sees patterns, respects himself, and keeps moving forward without bitterness. The right connection never hides behind constant unavailability. It meets you halfway, without needing excuses. And once you truly internalize this, psychology stops being about tactics and starts becoming wisdom. Because wisdom is simply seeing reality clearly and choosing yourself without guilt. 2. Low-effort communication. Communication reveals everything, far more than promises, far more than carefully chosen words. Not just what she says, but how she says it, the energy behind it, the effort within it, the interest woven through it, or the silence hidden inside it. When a woman isn't interested, her communication becomes low effort, in a way that feels subtle at first, almost harmless, but painfully obvious once you learn to recognize it. Her messages become shorter. One word, 2 words, no questions in return, no curiosity about your life, no attempt to keep the conversation going. You send her a thoughtful paragraph, something meaningful, something real, and she responds with lol, cool, or nice. You ask about her day, genuinely wanting to connect, and she says, "It was fine," with nothing else attached. No story, no follow-up, no opening for deeper conversation. You share something you're excited about, an achievement, a plan, a moment that matters to you, and the response feels flat, distant, and disengaged. And she replies with a thumbs-up emoji, as if you just sent a receipt instead of a meaningful piece of your life. There's no reciprocity, no engagement, no depth, and that absence isn't random. It's communication in its clearest form. Here's where most men go wrong, especially those who still believe effort alone can change the outcome. They try harder, they send longer texts, they explain themselves more thoroughly, they ask more questions, they chase the conversation, they overcompensate for her lack of interest with extra enthusiasm, assuming that consistency, patience, or emotional openness will eventually shift things in their favor. Don't do that. Don't confuse persistence with attraction. Don't mistake silence for mystery, because it never works, not even once. You can't negotiate attraction. You can't text your way into her heart. You can't make someone care simply by caring more. Attraction isn't a debate, it's a response. And female psychology is very clear about this, even if modern dating culture tries to blur the lines. When a woman is genuinely interested, communication feels different right away. Not perfect, not constant, but alive. She matches your energy. She asks questions, not out of politeness, but out of real curiosity. She shares about herself, without needing to be prompted. She sends voice notes because typing feels too limiting. She uses emojis that show emotion, not just acknowledgement. She keeps the conversation flowing because she wants to talk to you, not because she feels obligated to respond. There's rhythm, there's flow, there's mutual effort. That's how women naturally behave when attraction is present. And that behavior doesn't need to be coached, requested, or forced. It happens organically. But when she isn't interested, every reply feels like pulling teeth. Every conversation dies unless you revive it. Every interaction feels one-sided, like you're carrying a weight she never agreed to hold. And if you're honest with yourself, you already know it. You feel it in your chest. You notice it in the pauses. You see it in the timing, the short replies, the lack of warmth. You just don't want to accept it, because acceptance feels like loss. But clarity isn't loss. Clarity is relief. This is where becoming a high-value man truly begins. Not with tactics, not with scripts, not with psychology tricks meant to manipulate outcomes, but with emotional discipline and self-awareness. A high-value man doesn't chase low-effort communication. He doesn't reward disinterest with increased access. He doesn't pour his masculine energy into a space that gives nothing in return. He observes, he adjusts, and he responds accordingly. That isn't arrogance, it's self-respect. And self-respect is magnetic. Understand this deeply. Low-effort communication is not a test you're supposed to pass. It's an answer you're supposed to accept. Many men assume they're being tested when a woman replies slowly or briefly, so they lean in harder, thinking endurance proves their worth. But attraction doesn't grow through endurance, it grows through alignment. When effort is uneven, attraction collapses under the weight of that imbalance. And the more you chase, the more you signal that your time and attention hold no real value. That signal slowly drains your masculine energy, not because you care, but because you ignore your own boundaries. Don't overanalyze every emoji. Don't reread messages searching for hidden meanings. Don't keep asking yourself what you did wrong. Instead, ask one simple question: is this communication reciprocal? If the answer is no, then the behavior itself is the message. Be the man who listens to behavior. Be the man who trusts patterns. Be the man who understands female psychology without resenting it, because women don't owe you interest, but you owe yourself awareness. Here's the paradox most men miss. The moment you stop chasing low-effort communication, you become more attractive, not necessarily to her, but to the right kind of dynamic. When you calmly pull back without drama, without passive-aggressive remarks, without staged disappearances meant to provoke a reaction, you reclaim your frame. You stop leaking energy, you stop performing, and that is when your masculine energy stabilizes. That stability is what allows you to attract women who genuinely want to engage, not just reply out of obligation. A high-value man doesn't try to win attention. He notices where attention flows naturally. He invests where effort is mutual. He walks away from what feels forced. That mindset alone transforms your dating life. It saves time. It preserves emotional energy. It protects dignity. And it aligns you with falling in love in a healthy, grounded way, where interest grows from shared curiosity, not emotional labor. Don't misunderstand this. This isn't about becoming cold. It's not about ignoring women. It's not about playing games. It's about refusing to play a game where the rules are already stacked against you. If her replies feel like obligations instead of enthusiasm, step back. If conversations only survive because of your effort, pause. If silence feels heavy instead of peaceful, stop initiating. That isn't punishment, it's alignment. And here's something men between 35 and 70 need to hear clearly. At this stage of life, your time is your most valuable currency. Spending it chasing low-effort communication isn't romantic, it's costly. You have experience, you have perspective, you have depth. You don't need to convince anyone to see that. The right woman will feel it and respond naturally. When you truly understand this, psychology tricks stop being tricks and start becoming awareness. Female psychology stops feeling confusing and starts feeling consistent. And attracting women stops being about effort and starts being about selection. You don't attract women by talking more. You attract women by being centered, calm, and selective with your attention. That is masculine energy at its core. So don't send another long paragraph to someone giving you one-word replies. Don't ask more questions to someone who never asks about you. Don't explain your value to someone who isn't curious enough to discover it on her own. Be still, be observant, be honest. That's how a high-value man moves. That's how you attract women who actually want to connect. And that's how you protect your energy, your confidence, and your self-respect, without anger, without bitterness, and without regret. If this felt a little too close to home, that's a good thing, because clarity is power. Stop chasing dry replies. Stop carrying conversations on your own. Choose self-respect over false hope. And if you're ready to move like a man who truly values his time and energy, drop a comment right now and say, "I don't chase low-effort communication." Like this video, subscribe for more real-world psychology, and remind yourself daily, interest is shown, not explained. 3. One-sided initiation. One-sided initiation isn't a minor detail, it's the detail. Miss it, and you miss everything. In modern life, attention is currency, effort is proof, and consistency reveals the truth faster than words ever will. So pay close attention. Who reaches out first? Who starts the conversations? Who suggests the plans? Who keeps the connection alive? Patterns don't lie, even when people do. If you're always the one texting first, calling first, checking in first, rearranging your schedule first, and carrying the emotional weight of the interaction. You're not leading, you're not being masculine, and you're not simply showing interest. You're overextending into silence. And as harsh as it sounds, there's a clear difference between pursuing and bothering. Experienced men learn this lesson the hard way. When a woman is genuinely interested, initiation is mutual, effortless and natural. She reaches out without being prompted. She sends you things that remind her of you. She checks in because she wants to, not because she feels obligated. She starts conversations because you're already on her mind. She looks for reasons to connect, not excuses to disappear. But when she isn't interested, the pattern completely flips into absence, delay, and indifference. Suddenly, everything depends on you, your effort, your energy, your imagination, your patience. If you stopped texting, you'd hear nothing. If you stopped making plans, you'd see nothing. If you stopped reaching out entirely, days would turn into weeks, and weeks might quietly stretch into nothing at all. This is where most men deceive themselves, creating stories to protect their hope. She's just shy. She's bad at texting. She's waiting for me to lead. She's busy. She's just different. But old Stoic wisdom reminds us that reality doesn't need interpretation. It needs acceptance. People do exactly what they truly want to do. They make time for what matters to them. Marcus Aurelius warned long ago that confusion doesn't come from events themselves, but from the stories we attach to them. In today's world where everyone carries a phone, silence is rarely an accident. It's a message. Here is the test most men avoid because it challenges their ego, but protects their future. Stop initiating. Stop texting first. Stop carrying the interaction. Stop doing all the emotional labor. Step back and observe. Observation is power, and power belongs to the calm, disciplined mind, not the anxious one. Watch what happens. See if she notices. See if she reaches out. See if she asks where you've been. See if she actually cares enough to close the distance herself. If she does nothing, you don't need another conversation, another explanation, or another 6 months of hope. You already have your answer. Knowing the truth early is a win, not a loss, because time is the one resource you never get back. The Stoic mindset teaches that winning isn't about bitterness or blame, it's about clarity, boundaries, and emotional economy. A strong, disciplined mind understands this deeply. Genuine interest doesn't need to be chased, explained, negotiated, or extracted. It shows up willingly, consistently, and without pressure. In modern dating culture, where options are endless and distractions are constant, effort becomes the clearest signal of value. When effort flows in only one direction, the connection is already unbalanced. No amount of charm, patience, or persistence can fix a dynamic built on indifference. As Seneca wrote, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Most men suffer because they refuse to accept what is already happening right in front of them. Instead of mastering their emotions, they hand control to someone who hasn't earned it. Stoic wisdom teaches us to reclaim that control by aligning our actions with truth, not hope. Here is the empowering shift. When you stop over-initiating, you stop leaking energy. When you stop chasing, you regain dignity. When you stop explaining yourself, you become grounded. Whether she reaches out or disappears becomes irrelevant, because either outcome gives you clarity, and clarity is freedom. This is the mindset Stoicism builds. A man with an iron mind does not beg for attention. He does not compete for indifference. He does not invest where there is no return. He observes, decides, and moves forward with purpose. This isn't about anger or resentment. It's about self-respect, efficiency, and emotional leadership in your own life. The goal isn't to convince someone to choose you. The goal is to recognize when someone already has. If she hasn't, you walk away calmly. No drama, no speeches, no chasing closure. Your silence becomes your boundary. Your absence becomes your answer. The modern man who learns this lesson stops wasting years in unclear situations and starts directing his energy toward growth, peace, and relationships that meet him halfway. That's how you win, not by forcing attraction, but by refusing to abandon yourself for it, by practicing stoic discipline daily, by building an iron mind that values truth over fantasy, by living these principles not as theory, but as a standard for how you move, choose, and protect your time in a world that constantly tests your discipline. 4. Talking about other men. Here's a hard truth most men don't want to face, but absolutely need to understand if they want clarity, dignity, and peace of mind. When a woman isn't interested in you, one of the clearest signs shows up in how comfortably she talks about other men. And if you don't learn to recognize this signal, you can waste months or even years stuck in false hope, quiet frustration, and emotional confusion. So listen closely, don't explain it away, don't romanticize it, don't create stories just to protect your ego, because this behavior isn't accidental, random, or harmless. When a woman freely talks about other men around you, guys who approached her, men she finds attractive, her ex, male co-workers, or someone she's currently curious about, and especially when she asks your opinion about another man, that's not openness, that's placement. That's her unconsciously putting you into a category that isn't romantic. Because attraction changes behavior, and female psychology becomes very clear once you know what to look for. This is one of those psychological signals that reveals the truth without a single direct statement. Understand this clearly. She isn't worried about making you jealous. She isn't concerned about how you feel. And she isn't trying to protect the dynamic between you, because in her mind, there is no romantic dynamic to protect. And that alone should tell you everything you need to know. When a woman sees you as a potential partner, she becomes more selective with her words, more mindful of the stories she shares, and more aware of emotional boundaries. But when she sees you as safe, neutral, or non-threatening, she speaks freely and casually, almost carelessly, not because she wants to hurt you, but because it doesn't even cross her mind that it might hurt you. And that is the hardest part for many men to accept. Don't misunderstand this as cruelty. It isn't cruelty, it's clarity. And clarity is a gift if you're mature enough to receive it. The real damage happens when a man ignores this signal and keeps investing time, energy, attention, and emotional labor into a woman who has already decided, quietly and internally, that he isn't a romantic option. This is where so many men lose themselves. They stay present, they stay available, they stay supportive, they listen, advise, reassure, and hope. All the while, she talks about other men as if he were her confidant, her emotional anchor, her safe place to land. That role can feel flattering at first, but it's a dead end if what you actually want is attraction, intimacy, and mutual desire. This is where understanding female psychology truly protects you. Women don't primarily communicate through direct rejection. They communicate through behavior, through tone, through what they include you in, and what they leave you out of. When she includes you in conversations about other men, she is, in effect, excluding you from being one of them. That's not something you can negotiate your way out of, because attraction isn't built through effort, it's revealed through response. Don't tell yourself she's just being honest. Don't tell yourself she trusts me. Don't tell yourself maybe she's testing me. Those stories keep you stuck, and being stuck is far worse than rejection. Rejection frees you. False hope slowly drains you. That's why so many men feel exhausted, resentful, and confused after long interactions with women who never actually wanted them romantically. They ignored the early signs and paid the price later. Be honest with yourself now. Honesty is power. Power brings peace, and peace lets you move forward with confidence instead of bitterness. When a woman is genuinely interested in you, she does not talk about other men, not because she's hiding something, but because her focus naturally narrows. Attraction simplifies priorities. She understands, consciously or unconsciously, that bringing other men into the conversation dilutes the emotional tension between you. Women who are drawn to you instinctively protect that tension. They don't invite competition. They don't seek your advice about their dating life. They don't vent about other men's behavior. They create space, curiosity, and room for you to step in. That difference matters more than any compliment, text message, or shared laugh. This is one of those psychological signals that reveals intention without confrontation. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Patterns don't lie. Behavior doesn't lie. Only our interpretations do. That's why men who understand how to fall in love properly, without losing themselves, pay attention to patterns instead of promises. Words are cheap. Behavior costs emotional energy, and people only spend that energy where it truly matters. Don't stay where you aren't wanted. Don't silently compete with men who don't even know you exist. Don't play the role of emotional support while hoping romance will magically appear. Hope without evidence is self-betrayal, and self-betrayal always leads to resentment. Resentment poisons your confidence, your presence, and your future relationships. Be grounded, be observant, be willing to walk away early instead of bleeding slowly. Walking away from the wrong situation creates space for the right one. This is something female psychology responds to deeply, even if it never changes this particular woman. Because the goal isn't to convince someone to choose you. The goal is to choose situations where you are already wanted. That is how to fall in love with clarity instead of confusion, with strength instead of anxiety, with mutual desire instead of silent longing. This is why men who truly understand psychology don't argue with reality. They adapt to it. They respect themselves enough to step back when the signs are clear, moving forward without anger, without blame, and without needing closure. The behavior has already given them the answer. Remember, attraction doesn't require decoding. When it's real, it feels clean, it feels mutual, it feels simple. The moment you find yourself analyzing, justifying, or enduring conversations about other men, that's your signal to pause, reassess, reclaim your time. Your attention is valuable, your presence matters, and your life is too short to spend it in someone else's waiting room. Once you truly understand this aspect of female psychology, you stop chasing signals and start choosing alignment, and that shift changes everything. If this hits a nerve, don't ignore it. Like this video, subscribe for more clear-eyed psychology, and share it with a man who needs the truth, not false hope. To lock this lesson in, comment the sentence below and mean it. If she talks about other men, I stop waiting and start choosing myself. 5. Cancellations without rescheduling. Here's a pattern that reveals everything. Once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. When a woman cancels plans, don't focus on the cancellation itself. Focus on what happens next. That's where the truth lives. Life happens, schedules change, emergencies come up. A single cancellation means nothing, but behavior after the cancellation tells you everything you need to know. If a woman is genuinely interested, her energy doesn't vanish just because the plan fell through. She feels it, she acknowledges it, she explains what happened, she apologizes without drama. Most importantly, she replaces what was lost, offering another day, another time, another plan. She takes initiative. She makes it clear she still wants to see you. That is not chasing. That is basic investment. That is how genuine interest behaves. But when a woman isn't interested, the cancellation becomes vague and hollow. Sorry, something came up. I'm not feeling great. Can we do this another time? And then silence. No follow-up, no alternative, no effort to keep the connection alive. The words may sound polite, but the action is empty, and action always outweighs words. This isn't confusion, it's passive rejection, subtle, quiet, avoiding confrontation, and it keeps many men stuck longer than they should be. Pay attention to what happens when you try again. You bring it up calmly. You suggest another time. and suddenly she's busy again, or unsure, or non-committal. Yeah, maybe. Let me check my schedule. I'll let you know. And then she never does. Days pass. Weeks pass. Nothing materializes. That isn't bad timing. That's low priority. That's someone keeping you in limbo while exploring other options. This is where men lose their footing if they don't understand female psychology. Don't explain it away. Don't tell yourself she's just overwhelmed. Don't assume she's shy. Don't convince yourself that patience will somehow earn her interest. Patience does not create attraction. Presence does. Initiative does. Mutual effort does. A woman who wants to see you makes it easy to do so, not effortless, but clear. Clear communication, clear intention, clear movement forward. Anything else is a signal, not a puzzle. This is where a high-value man separates himself from the crowd. He doesn't argue with reality. He doesn't beg for clarity. He doesn't send follow-up messages trying to revive dead momentum. He observes, he notes the pattern, he responds with self-respect. That is masculine energy in its calmest form, quiet, grounded, unreactive. A high-value man understands that attraction flows toward certainty, not neediness, toward direction, not hesitation, toward men who know when to step forward and when to step away. Be honest with yourself. If she wanted to reschedule, she would. If she wanted to see you, she would make space. People don't forget what matters to them. They rearrange for it. They protect it. They prioritize it. This isn't about blaming her. She doesn't owe you interest, and you don't owe her unlimited availability. That is the balance many men miss. They keep showing up where they aren't being chosen, hoping consistency will turn into desire. It won't. Consistency without reciprocation becomes quiet frustration. Don't stay in limbo. Limbo is where confidence erodes. Limbo is where you check your phone too often, replay conversations in your mind, and lower your standards just to keep a connection alive. That is not how you attract women. That is how you lose yourself. A man rooted in masculine energy does not hover. He moves. He decides. He creates momentum in his own life instead of waiting for permission. Notice how different it feels when interest is real. When she cancels but immediately says, "I'm really sorry. Can we do Thursday instead?" When she follows up later and checks in. When she takes responsibility for keeping the connection alive. There is no guessing, no decoding, no anxiety. Attraction feels clean. Confusion is your signal that something is off. You must understand this deeply. Accepting vague cancellations without rescheduling trains people how to treat you. It silently communicates that your time is flexible, optional, and easy to dismiss. A high-value man doesn't lecture. He doesn't threaten. He simply adjusts his availability, withdraws his attention, and moves forward. That alone is powerful. That alone resets the dynamic. Even if it doesn't change her behavior, it protects your self-respect. Be decisive. If she cancels and offers no alternative, take it as information, not an insult. Information. Say nothing dramatic. Don't chase clarity. Don't demand explanations. Simply step back. Invest your energy elsewhere. Build your life. Strengthen your purpose. That is how you attract women who are aligned with you. That is how masculine energy naturally grows, through direction, discipline, and emotional control, not through persuasion. This is one of those psychology tricks that feels simple, but saves you years of wasted effort. Men who master this don't become cold or bitter. They become selective, calm, grounded. They stop auditioning for attention and start choosing environments where interest is mutual. That shift alone changes how women respond to you. Because people sense when a man isn't afraid to walk away. Don't confuse kindness with tolerance. Be kind, be respectful, but don't tolerate patterns that drain you. You must protect your time because your time is your life. The moment you stop chasing vague interest is the moment you become more attractive, not because you're playing games, but because you're standing on principle. That is the essence of being a high-value man. Remember this: women who want you make it easy to move forward. Women who don't keep it vague. Your job isn't to convince. Your job is to observe and respond with dignity. That is how you attract women who respect you. That is how masculine energy stays intact. And that is how you move through dating with clarity instead of confusion, strength instead of anxiety, and purpose instead of waiting. 6. Closed-off body language. Body language never lies. This is one of the most uncomfortable truths a man must face if he wants clarity instead of confusion, strength instead of hope, and peace instead of self-deception. When a woman isn't interested in you, her body will say no long before her mouth ever does. No amount of talking, explaining, or trying harder will override what her instincts are already communicating. She creates distance without announcing it. She pulls her energy inward. She stops leaning in. She stops finding reasons to be close. She doesn't touch you casually. She doesn't linger. She doesn't soften. And if you move closer, she subtly moves away. Not dramatically, not cruelly, but just enough to restore space. Because space is safety when interest is absent. If you place your arm around her and her body stiffens, that stiffness isn't confusion, it's clarity. If you reach for her hand and she withdraws, that withdrawal isn't timing, it's truth. This is where most men fail themselves, by arguing with reality instead of listening to it. The body speaks the language the mind cannot fake. As the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, all credibility, all good conscience, all evidence of truth come only from the senses, which means what you see and feel matters far more than what you hope. In modern life, where texting, mixed signals, and social politeness blur boundaries, body language remains brutally honest. Attraction draws people closer effortlessly. Disinterest builds invisible walls without explanation. And you already know this because you've felt that wall before. You've sensed the lack of warmth, the absence of eye contact, the crossed arms, the body angled away, the subtle disengagement that makes conversations feel heavy and one-sided. Yet many men refuse to accept the message. They negotiate with it, rationalize it, or try to outperform it, which only drains self-respect and weakens presence. Understand this clearly. When a woman is attracted to you, she doesn't need convincing to be close. She leans in naturally. She mirrors your movements without realizing it. She sits closer than necessary. She finds reasons to brush against you, touch your arm, or hold eye contact just a moment longer than politeness requires. Attraction isn't logical, it's instinctive. Instinct moves the body before the mind catches up, but when that instinct is absent, the body closes. No clever words can open it. This is where old Stoic wisdom becomes your greatest ally. Stoicism teaches you not to chase what resists, not to cling to what withdraws, and not to base your worth on another person's response. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you'll find strength. Strength here means the ability to observe reality without taking it personally, to accept signals without resentment, and to move forward with dignity intact. A man with an iron mind does not beg for closeness that isn't freely given. He does not push against closed doors. He does not argue with non-verbal truth. He steps back calmly, regains his center, and chooses self-respect over validation. Stoic victory isn't about winning people over, it's about winning yourself back, mastering your reactions, refusing to waste emotional energy where it isn't returned. In today's world, many men confuse persistence with strength, but persistence in the face of disinterest isn't strength, it's attachment. Attachment clouds judgment, lowers presence, and makes a man appear unaware rather than confident. Whereas clarity, clear eyes, calm acceptance, and decisive movement forward is magnetic, even when it leads you away from a particular woman. Nothing raises a man's value faster than his willingness to walk away from what doesn't align. Nothing lowers it faster than his refusal to see what is right in front of him. Body language is feedback, not a personal attack, and feedback, when understood, is a gift. If you have the discipline to receive it without ego, it allows you to redirect your energy toward growth, purpose, and self-mastery, which is where real attraction begins, whether from women or from life itself. This is why the Stoic path emphasizes observation over fantasy, reality over hope, and self-command over emotional bargaining. A man who can calmly accept disinterest without bitterness is a man who cannot be shaken. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters. Reacting well here doesn't mean collapsing inward or hardening outward. It means standing steady, learning the lesson, and moving on stronger. Remember this clearly: if her body pulls away, you pull back too. Not out of spite, not to prove anything, but to honor yourself. If she creates distance, you respect it without commentary. If warmth is absent, you don't try to manufacture it, because forced connection isn't connection. Chasing closed energy only teaches your mind to ignore truth, which weakens your instincts over time. Honoring reality sharpens them, and a sharp mind is the foundation of an iron mind. Modern men are surrounded by noise telling them to try harder, say more, prove value. But old Stoic wisdom says the opposite: observe, detach, act with precision. Living this way, you stop wasting time on uncertainty, stop replaying moments in your head, and stop asking why someone does not feel what they do not feel. The answer is already visible in the space they create, the silence they keep, and the distance they maintain.